The moonlight shimmered on the icy plains of Araman as Fingolfin stood at the edge of the world, the sea roaring like an unbroken beast beneath him. The wind howled in his ears, carrying the bitter memory of betrayal and loss. His hands tightened on the hilt of his sword, and for a fleeting moment, he wondered if the Valar watched from afar, silent and unyielding. He turned back to face the host that followed him, their faces pale with fear and fatigue. His voice, when it came, was a steel blade cutting through the chaos of the storm. "We will not yield. We march." Fingolfin's life was forged in both light and shadow, his name carved into the history of the Eldar as one of the greatest High Kings of the Noldor. Born in the blessed realm of Valinor, he was the second son of Finwë, the High King of the Noldor, and Indis, his Vanir wife. Yet even in the golden light of Aman, where no shadow was meant to fall, discord found him. He grew under the shadow of his elder half-brother, Fëanor, whose brilliance and pride burned as fiercely as the Silmarils he would later create. Though Fingolfin was strong and noble, the tensions between the brothers simmered like a slow-burning fire. Fëanor's disdain for his younger brother was a wound that never fully healed, and when Fëanor drew his sword on him in the halls of Finwë, the wound became a scar. The Noldor were summoned to the Ring of Doom to answer for this act, and Fingolfin stood tall before the Valar, his voice unwavering as he declared his loyalty to his people and to peace. But even then, the seeds of division had been sown. The peace of Valinor shattered with the theft of the Silmarils and the murder of Finwë by Melkor, who would later be named Morgoth. Fëanor's fiery words stirred the Noldor to rebellion, and in that moment of fury and grief, Fingolfin made a choice that would haunt him forever. He swore the same oath as his brother, though the weight of those words never sat easily on his shoulders. When the Noldor marched from Valinor in pursuit of Morgoth, Fingolfin led his own host, always one step behind Fëanor but never faltering. It was at Alquilon that the first great tragedy of the Noldor unfolded. The kinslaying stained their hands with the blood of the Teleri, their kin, whose swanships they took by force. Fingolfin's followers were drawn into the chaos, their cries echoing across the white shores as the sea turned red. He would carry the weight of that slaughter with him for the rest of his life, his heart heavy with shame for the blood spilled in pursuit of vengeance. When Fëanor and his sons betrayed Fingolfin, abandoning him and his people on the icy wastes of Araman, it would have been easy to despair. The ships burned on the horizon, their flames mocking the Noldor stranded in the cold, their hope flickering like dying embers. But Fingolfin was no stranger to hardship, and his resolve only hardened in the face of Fëanor's treachery. With a courage that would be sung of for ages, he led his people across the grinding ice, the Helcarax, a place of bitter winds and treacherous paths where many lives were lost. Every step was agony, yet he bore it all for the sake of his people, his leadership unshaken even in the darkest moments. When Fingolfin and his host finally reached Middle-earth, they arrived under the light of the rising moon, the first of the Eldar to behold its silver glow. Their journey had been one of loss and suffering, but it had forged them into something unbreakable. And there, beneath the starlit skies of Beleriand, Fingolfin began his reign as the High King of the Noldor, a leader of unmatched wisdom and valor. Fingolfin's rule was marked by relentless war against Morgoth, whose dark fortress of Angband loomed like a shadow over the north. He led his people in the siege of Angband, a time of fragile peace during which the Noldor built their kingdoms and forged alliances with the Sindar and Edain. Yet the peace was an illusion, and Morgoth's malice could not be contained forever. When the siege was broken, Fingolfin's grief and fury reached their peak. News came to him of the Dager Bragollach, the Battle of Sudden Flame, where Morgoth unleashed rivers of fire upon the lands of the Noldor, shattering their armies and scattering their people. Fingolfin's heart broke as he witnessed the ruin of his kin, their dreams of glory crushed under the weight of Morgoth's power. Despair clawed at him, but within that despair burned a flame that could not be extinguished. In his anguish, Fingolfin made a fateful decision. Mounted on his great steed, Rochler, he rode alone to the gates of Angband, his blue and silver armor gleaming like a shard of starlight against the darkness. His voice thundered as he called Morgoth forth, challenging the Dark Lord to single combat. For a moment, even the mightiest of Morgoth's servants faltered, for there was something in Fingolfin's presence that spoke of the light of the two trees and the unyielding spirit of the Noldor. Morgoth emerged, towering and terrible, his iron crown bearing the Silmarils that had caused so much sorrow. The earth trembled as they clashed, Fingolfin's sword, Ringil, striking with the fury of a storm. 7 times he wounded Morgoth, each blow a defiance of the darkness that sought to consume the world. But even Fingolfin's strength could not prevail against the might of Avala. Morgoth struck him down, his hammer, Grond, crushing the earth beneath him. Yet, as Fingolfin fell, he delivered one final blow, carving a lasting scar into Morgoth's foot, a wound that would never heal. Fingolfin's body was taken by Thorondr, the great eagle, who bore him to a high mountain peak where no darkness could reach. His sacrifice was not in vain, for his defiance kindled a spark of hope in the hearts of those who remained. His name would be remembered in song and story, a testament to the courage of one who stood against the greatest evil of his age.